And as pressure grows on Rishi Sunak, with his party divided over the Rwanda plan to stop illegal migrant crossings in the Channel, some are thinking the unthinkable and pushing for Sunak to go. The government's former chief Brexit negotiator, Lord David Frost, good friend of mine, has said the Tories must replace Sunak or face electoral oblivion. While writing in the Express newspaper online, its political editor, David Maddox, has said that whilst Suella Braverman may be in the running to replace the PM should it come to it, it's the business secretary, Kemi Badenoch, who's being lined up for the top job. Maddox quotes a Tory insider as saying, Sunak's gone. It's just a matter of time. It will be, and I quote, Kemi next. Well, I'm delighted to say the man with the story, David Maddox, joins me now. David, what a scoop. First of all, the government's first vote on the emergency Rwanda bill is on Tuesday. If it fails to go through, thanks to Tory rebels, how much pressure does this place on Sunak?
I think the pressure will come before that, actually. We're waiting. We were actually hoping it might be this evening, but certainly Monday or Tuesday morning, for Sir Bill Cash, veteran Brexiteer, ERG member, great man, to pronounce on whether the Rwanda bill meets the requirements of the right of a party, essentially, and would actually work, in their view. The betting is pretty strongly against him saying that, and a lot of MPs are looking at that as the kind of trigger moment to put in letters and to certainly vote against. Personally, I don't think they will lose on Tuesday. They won't lose on Tuesday.
Okay.
There'll be a lot of abstentions, but they will lose later on if the bill goes against.
Yeah, Tory lawyers looking at that legislation reminds me of when the ERG were carefully studying the Brexit withdrawal agreement and indeed the Windsor framework. Always a nerve-wracking time for any Prime Minister. David, how significant is the intervention of Lord Frost, the former chief Brexit negotiator, saying Sunak must go?
I think it is actually very significant. It's interesting. Lord Frost is hoping to be a candidate at the next election. So he's got a reason to kind of chum up to the leadership and to, play friendly and not to kind of get himself barred from standing in a nice, safe seat. But, here he is coming out doing actually what he's very good at. Lord Frost has always been very good at is just speaking truth to power, really, and saying, this isn't working anymore. An awful lot of MPs, and I've quoted him in lots of stories now, are saying this privately and behind the scenes. It needs a few more of the kind of leading figures to come out. Suella Braverman obviously has come out and done it. Robert Jenrick has done as well, which was a very important moment last week. So he's in desperate trouble, Rishi Sunak is, and it's very hard to see how he's going to avoid a vote of confidence.
Well, indeed. I mean, I was absolutely glued to your piece in the Express Online today. You've spoken to a Tory insider who has said Sunak's gone. It's just a matter of time. What might that timeline be? Could proceedings start before Christmas, those letters going into Graham Brady?
It could do. I mean, it could happen in a rush, and it often does. What my betting still would be January. I think MPs will still want to think about it. They won't want to. They want to have some sort of organisation, and kind of getting to the point of my article, they want to have some idea about who might replace him. Now, Kemi Badenoch certainly is being lined up as a replacement. There's no doubt about that. If you look at her Twitter feed over the last couple of days, which has suddenly sprung to life amazingly, you can see very well. I mean, amazing. I mean, one thing that made me laugh was that suddenly she's become a champion of Brexit, having messed up the rule bill and annoyed all the Brexiteers. So, there's no doubt about it. But the key thing about that person you're quoting from my article was that person used to work or has worked for somebody who may be another leadership contender and yet is saying Kemi's the one. And that was what really made me kind of take up and notice that particular quote.
Most definitely. Why does Kemi Badenoch have so much momentum behind her? There's a suggestion that Michael Gove is a fan.
Well, Michael Gove unofficially ran her campaign last time. Somebody's written into us to remind us that Lee Rowley was the official campaign manager, but it was Michael Gove running her campaign. And this is actually a strength and a terror.
Now, we've just lost the line to David Maddox, but let me tell you, I'm fascinated by this idea that the Prime Minister could be under pressure. I know the public wouldn't take kindly to another Prime Minister. How many would that be in a year? But the Tories are sunk, aren't they? They're going to lose the next general election. And if you're a Tory backbencher, you might be sat there thinking, well, there's nothing to lose. If you face certain political death, perhaps you're going to roll the dice and go for a new leader. Well, I'm delighted to say that we've put 10p back in the meter and David Maddox returns. David, you want to try Virgin Media? It's much better for broadband. But can I ask you, where does this speculation about Kemi Badenoch leave Suella Braverman, former Home Secretary?
The problem is that both of them will be fishing in the same pool and they will split the vote. When I got cut off there, the Gove thing is a strength and a weakness. Michael Gove, obviously very influential figure, very respected in some ways, but also deeply mistrusted. And there's a constant narrative that Kemi Badenoch will end up being a kind of proxy for Gove, which is a bit unfair on her, but it's quite damaging to her as well. So, you know, Suella Braverman is now the kind of champion of these kind of migration controls, and I think she's the wind's in her sails. This will be her time to win that particular contest, but in the end, it's going to be one of those two probably who comes through and takes on somebody like Penny Mordaunt.
When we lost the line there, I was saying that if you face almost certain annihilation at the next election, perhaps as a Tory backbencher, you might think, do you know what? I know it's bonkers. I know it's batshit crazy, but let's have a new leader. Is it possible?
Everything is possible. And yes, it is insane. Actually, going into a fourth leader since the last election is unprecedented.
It's worse than Chelsea, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it makes kind of dysfunctional football clubs look like quite well-oiled machines. But it's I think the electorate will find it very hard to trust them again after such a mess. But it's, you know, in the end, I think a lot of MPs are saying this is going nowhere. We're 25 points behind in the polls. We're going to have not just our worst defeat, we're staring at a wipeout. We're looking at 50 seats, possibly. It cannot get worse. We've got to do something about it.
John Sargent, the former chief political correspondent at the BBC, David, told me last night that Sunak may be threatening backbenchers with a snap election if they don't support his Rwanda bill on Tuesday. What about the idea that Sunak presses the nuclear button and calls an emergency election based around stop the boats, based around the theme of back me on this or sack me?
I mean, there's something to that, but if he does that, he risks becoming the first Prime Minister in history to lose his seat, because the current public opinion of a Conservative Party is, as I was saying, so bad that they would be wiped out. They would be down to maybe 50, 60 seats, unless something really changes. It might narrow, but it's like, you know, that would take Sunak out as the Prime Minister, as an MP. So why take that risk? I mean, the same advice was given to Liz Truss when she was in a terrible spot, but they would have been wiped out to, you know, maybe one or two MPs. Things were so bad with her. So it's just, you know, you can make these threats, but are they realistic? And I don't think it's very realistic.
David Maddox, thank you. It's a brilliant piece in today's Express. Go to express.co.uk. David Maddox is their erstwhile political editor.